Live from Capitol Hill, it's the Jordan Sekulow Show.
Hey folks, we got a great show today. South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson is going to be joining us for the full segment in the next segment of the show, talking about what he and 9 of his colleagues are doing, attorney generals from around the country are doing to fight for our religious liberties when it comes to this HHS mandate. They have sent a letter off to Kathleen Sebelius, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, who is issuing this mandate to religious institutions and organizations. It's a great letter. I've linked to that at twitter.com/Jordan Sekulow, and we're going to talk to him about all of the concerns. What concerns does he have as a state attorney general? What concerns about religious liberty, about insurance, about what this means for private employers, and what states are prepared to do if the federal government does not budge, and if Obamacare is held to be constitutional. You remember, they're fighting that out. South Carolina is part of the states that have signed on to fight the Affordable Care Act at the U.S. Supreme Court. So they're watching it closely. That's the oral arguments in March. We'll know the summer. But then, of course, now they're looking to say, okay, if we have to keep fighting this and the Supreme Court doesn't handle it over the summer, then we're going to have to be filing legal action on these mandates. And imagine how many of these kind of mandates are going to come from the power that was delegated from Congress, really, to the executive branch through the 2,700 pages of Obamacare. So you don't want to miss South Carolina's Attorney General joining us, Alan Wilson, in the next segment of the show to talk about all of those issues. Hey, welcome back to the Jordan Sekulow Show. As you know, folks, here at the American Center for Law and Justice, we have been talking about this issue involving the HHS mandate, then a compromise that was released by President Obama after some pressure by really people across the country, regardless of their religious faith, because of what they saw as an intrusion on our fundamental First Amendment rights of religious liberty. Well, there are states' attorney general who are also warning the Obama administration that they will take action. And one of those attorney generals joining us right now, Attorney General Alan Wilson of South Carolina, is with us. And General Wilson, thank you for being with us on the show.
Thank you, Jordan. It's an honor to be on your show today.
You have joined with 9 of your colleagues, so 10 total states' attorney generals who have told Kathleen Sebelius and the Obama administration, basically put them on notice, that if you go along with these kind of plans, which give people basically only 3 options, close down, stop providing insurance, or violate your religious faith, that you're going to move ahead and look at legal options.
Yes, Jordan, we have, and I fully expect that number to continue to grow as we move forward. If I may, real quick, tell you where this came from. There is a great concern with my colleagues who represent the Attorney General's office in the various states. Yeah, as you know, at the end of March, we're going before the United States Supreme Court on the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. This mandate on the contraceptives and the abortifacient mandate, it emanates from Obamacare. And so what we have noticed is that there has been a steady progression, a pattern of behavior by this administration that we're slowly seeing it creeping forward is causing us great concern. When the Obamacare was first passed, the first issue that caused us concern was the fact that there was an individual mandate that would require an individual to go out and buy a product, health insurance, for instance. And if they didn't do it, they would be penalized or fined. That caused me great concern, as well as my colleagues. Then this contraceptive mandate that's being debated now, then it went to require employers, specifically faith-based employers, to provide services through their insurance to their employees that they find to be unconscionable or against their religious beliefs. And I also will add, we're not just talking about faith-based entities like Catholic universities or Baptist hospitals or any other faith-based entities. What about the private employer who has a personal faith and how they run their business, and they're required to provide a service they don't want to? So you see another unconscionable, or rather unconstitutional, mandate on those employers. Earlier this past week, the Obama administration tried to nullify, or rather walk back from that mandate and say, well, we're not going to require employers to do that, but we are going to require insurance companies that provide those services to employers to provide a free service, free contraceptives, free abortifacients, whatever the service is. Well, what you're doing now is you're requiring a company to give away a free product. That's no different than requiring Burger King or McDonald's to give away free hamburgers. To me, that's an unlawful taking. Now, there's another problem the Obama administration has failed to see, and that is when you require these employers, or rather these insurance companies, they're claiming that is taking the burden off of the employer, because now they're mandating the insurance company provide it, not the employer. A lot of these Catholic institutions or these other faith-based institutions are self-insurers. In other words, they pay for the services themselves. They don't use the insurance company to pay for a service. They actually fund the service themselves. They just use the insurance company or a third-party administrator to administer or to process claims filed by their employees. So basically, the Catholic University itself is the insurance company. So when the Obama administration says, don't worry, employer, we're not going to require you provide the service, we're going to require the insurance company provide the service. Well, in many instances, the insurance company and the employer are one and the same. So that really is not a compromise. It is not an accommodation. It is really just a sleight of hand and smoke and mirrors.
You know, folks, we are talking to South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson. Really honored to have him on the show today, talking about what him, along with his colleagues, are doing when it comes down to this mandate. And Attorney General Wilson, I guess the next question I think on everyone's mind when they see this move coming before an election year is this just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to how much authority was delegated from Congress back to the executive branch in Obamacare? I mean, you have a 2,700-page law, but then this wasn't directly mentioned in it. Now you see all the administrative power and authority that was given away without congressional oversight.
Well, absolutely. And, I'm reminded of what Ms. Pelosi said when she said we need to hurry up and pass this law so that we can see what's in it. And I've even heard reports from many Democrats in Congress who said that had they known that this was going to be in the law, they would not have voted for it. And so you're seeing a lot of backtracking from Democrats within the administration. And you know what? Kudos to them for at least acknowledging that this is wrong. And I'm not gonna criticize them for backtracking on their initial support of the bill, although I wish they had read it. But I'm at least grateful that some people are starting to recognize the folly that this healthcare mandate is creating. And there's one other point I wanted to make, Jordan, is when President Obama says that that these insurance companies are going to provide free services, free contraceptives, free abortifacients, free services. What they fail to understand is what any B student in an economics 101 class in college already understands, and that there are no free lunches. If I require or mandate McDonald's provide people on the street a free hamburger, McDonald's still has to find a way to pay for the process of making that hamburger and to absorb that cost. So it is going to move the cost around and shift the burden somewhere else, and it's going to get passed to the other consumers, and it's going to get passed in the form of cuts in employment. So Mr. Obama does not understand that there are no free lunches, there are no free contraceptives. Those costs will be reshifted back to the employers and higher premiums on other services. So it still gets spread out. There are no free contraceptives. It's all smoke and mirrors.
You know, what makes me nervous about this, even not just this single issue, but one of their arguments they make, again, folks, just to remind you, we're talking to South Carolina's Attorney General Alan Wilson, who has joined with 9 of his colleagues throughout the country and signed this letter saying, if you move forward with this kind of policy, we're going to, see you in court, just like we're about to see you at the Supreme Court on the healthcare law. Is that, one of they're saying, well, it's actually cheaper for the insurance companies. Now, this is happening right before an election year. You think if President Obama were to be reelected and this law did stand at the Supreme Court, they had this authority and it was constitutional, this would be, step 2 could be saying, well, it's cheaper to have an abortion and we won't make you pay for it, but it's better if the insurance companies cover that because it's cheaper to have an abortion than it is to have a full pregnancy. And so it should at least be offered to everyone who is insured. I mean, you could see how this kind of reasoning, even if you just limited the scope to the health world, could go much further than what's already they're trying to impose.
Jordan, you're absolutely correct when you said what you just said. And I'll go back to my previous statement, is that the insurance companies are going to look at this free service that they are now mandated to give the people who are insured by them. they're going to say, okay, we have to pay for abortions or we have to provide contraceptives. Well, they're not going to just take that money out of their bottom line. They're going to absorb that cost in other services that they insure or other services they provide. They're going to pass that on to people who pay premiums. They're going to pass that on. That might even be in employment cuts. It's going to be absorbed somewhere else, and the cost of health care is actually going to go up. There are no free lunches. It doesn't exist. So when the government says you're getting something for free, that is when you need to run the other direction. But you're absolutely right, Jordan, when you make that comment that, that this will not make insurance costs go down. I have not spoken to one single person in the insurance industry who believes that the health costs are going to go down. In fact, it's going to cause them to go up.
You know what, folks? I'm going to encourage everyone to go to the Attorney General's website, scag.gov. Right on the homepage, you'll see the letter. You can read it for yourself that he signed along with his colleagues and his statements as well, as they are, again, these are states' attorney generals who are standing up and to the administration, they did on Friday, and say, we will fight this out in court just like we're fighting out the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare. And Attorney General Wilson, let me just say thank you for being on the show today, for informing people that there are elected officials out there and legal, elected officials at the Attorney General level ready to fight for us if we have to for our religious liberties. Thank you very much, Attorney General Wilson.
Thank you, Jordan. It's a pleasure to be with you today, and I hope you have a great day.